publicly or open. So yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah, so let me just do some quick introductions, and then as people join in, they can start. So for those of you that are online, hello everyone. We're going to get started. My name is Jocelyn Philbrook, and I lead global marketing here at Cirrus Data. I'm really thrilled to have with us today Jay Lansdaal from Microsoft Azure. We also have our own Mark Greenlaw here on the call with us this morning. And then I'm thrilled to introduce Stephen Pelletier. He is with us as well, and he leads our cloud initiatives. So today we're going to be talking about Azure storage and migrating to SQL. Migrating SQL to Azure. And before I turn the call over to Jay, I just want to remind folks that there is a Q&A session at the end of this. So if you have questions up here on the top of the screen, you can put them in anytime and we will take them at the end. So with all of that said and brief introductions done, Jay, I'm going to turn the floor over to you, sir.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, Jocelyn. Happy to be here. And I think we'll just jump right in. So indeed, we're talking a little bit today about migrating SQL to Azure, but just also just databases and other like Oracle workloads to Azure. And so I wanted to start with kind of explaining why customers are coming to Azure Storage. There's a few good reasons to do this. Big one probably being that data is growing exponentially, and cloud storage provides unlimited scale to support that growth. Cloud storage also provides global reach for all of your data sets, and it enables you to transform your workloads and implement new ones using ultra-modern platforms. Innovation in IT is often happening on the cloud first, and if your data is in cloud storage, you can embrace all these innovations. Plus, with security being the highest priority for data storage, you can leverage all the security and compliance capabilities of cloud storage to build your applications with confidence. Now, the area of Azure storage we will be talking about today is block storage, mainly Azure disks, but also our latest block storage offering, Azure ElasticSAN. Azure disks are tailor-made to provide storage for Azure virtual machines, and they have 4 unique capabilities that will enable you to seamlessly run your applications on Azure. They have an industry-leading 0% annualized failure rate with 5 nines of availability, which is supported by 3 backend replicas. We have locally redundant storage, LRS disks, that provide at least 11 nines of durability over a given year, and zone redundant storage, ZRS disks, that provide at least 12 nines of durability over a given year. We also have an industry-leading single instance VM SLA of 99.9% for VMs leveraging premium or ultra disks. Plus, we offer integration with high availability offerings of availability sets and availability zones. We offer easy migration, some more on that later, and innovative features such as those aforementioned ZRS disks and also shared disks, which can help you simplify your architecture at a lower cost. In Azure, we currently have 5 different types of disks and a cloud SAN called ElasticSAN. Going from left to right here, standard HDD is our low-cost, higher latency storage option, which is good for dev or test workloads, backups, non-critical workloads where cost is key and performance is secondary. Next is standard SSD, which is designed for consistent performance at low IOPS and is a good choice for customers with varying workloads that were supported by on-premise hard disk drive HDD solutions. Examples of this would be like web servers, low IOPS application servers, lightly used enterprise applications, and non-production workloads. They're a good entry-level SSD. Premium SSD is what we recommend as the minimum bar for applications that need high performance and reasonably low latency for IO-intensive workloads. These are suitable for mission-critical production applications that don't need sub-millisecond latencies. Both standard and premium SSDs are designed to provide the single-digit millisecond latencies, and their target IOPS and throughput, as described in the Azure docs, of 99.9% of the time. Then Premium SSD V2, in the darker blue here, is the next generation of premium disks, where size and performance are decoupled, providing greater flexibility for managing performance and cost. And it lets you specify a disk size ranging from 1 gigabyte up to 64 terabytes in 1 gigabyte increments, and you can separately provision size, IOPS, and throughput based on your workload requirements. Each Premium SSD V2 disk comes with a baseline performance of 3000 IOPS and 125 megabytes per second of throughput, regardless of the provision size. The next to that is UltraDisk, which is the highest performance storage option that's well suited for data-intensive, high-throughput workloads, such as SAP HANA, top-tier databases, and transaction-heavy workloads that require low sub-millisecond latency. A single UltraDisk can support up to 160,000 IOPS and 2 gigabytes of throughput while maintaining sub-millisecond latency 99.99% of the time. For Premium V2 and UltraDisk, it used to be that changes to the disk size could only be made when the disk was unattached or the managing virtual machines were deallocated, while changes to performance could be made without downtime. We've actually recently changed that, so this is some news to share on this webinar. Live resize of the storage capacity is now in public preview for both of these disks. And the last one on this card here is ElasticSAN. This is our latest block storage offering that can provide up to millions of IOPS and multiple gigs of throughput, and is ideal to provide cost efficiency at scale for a variety of workloads. To dive a little deeper into this new offering, Azure ElasticSAN is the industry's first fully managed SAN offering in the cloud. It supports a resource hierarchy just like an on-prem SAN. Customers provision the resources on the SAN level, and that's where they get billed. Nested below the SAN are the volume groups. This is a volume group is a grouping concept for applying security, networking, and data protection configurations. It's similar to the on-prem concept of network endpoints and data protection groups. Then within the volume groups, we have the volumes, which are the same data storage units as on-prem. These similarities make it easier to lift and shift your on-premises SAN workloads straight into the cloud, rather than have to figure out what disk to use for what workload. Because when you have hundreds or even thousands of workloads running on-prem, it's a huge burden that gets eased a lot by ElasticSAN. Also, unlike our disks, which use a proprietary protocol, these volumes are accessed over iSCSI, a standard industry protocol. This means that you can use ElasticSAN to connect to more than just VMs. For example, you can use ElasticSAN as a data store for your Azure VMware Solution private cloud. And as we saw on the last slide, you can provision storage on the SAN level to achieve massive scale. We're the first in the cloud to push the scale to millions of IOPS on a single storage entity, while we allow for granular scaling and provisioning within minutes. Plus, redundancy is built in as a standard for all the Azure Block Storage. We offer both locally redundant and zonally redundant ElasticSANs. So we believe that Azure ElasticSAN offers a differentiated solution that no other cloud providers offer, and it gives customers an alternative path for SAN migration that is driven by their storage needs. One of the big reasons to choose an ElasticSAN over using disks is when you are dealing with a larger scale than just a couple of workloads. So imagine a scenario like here on the slide. You have 4 databases, which individually their IOPS requirements add up to 120,000 IOPS. But the max of total IOPS for all 4 workloads together at any point of time only reaches 80,000. If you were to set up 4 individual disks, you'd have to deal with the individual spikes, right? Like the MySQL database on the left, you'd need to have a disk that can provide 30,000 IOPS. When you set up a SAN, which has a performance pool that shares all the performance across all the volumes, you can set up a SAN for 80,000 IOPS, and it'd be enough to serve all 4 of these databases, which lets you significantly save on performance which is generally the expensive component in storage. Now, this is just an example with 4 databases, but you can imagine how much you could save if you have 400, right? Well, the more workloads and the larger the scale, the more you can save. Another big reason to choose ElasticSAN specifically for something like SQL or Oracle or other workloads that are really IOPS intensive is that since you are connecting to an ElasticSAN volume over iSCSI, you can drive throughput over network bandwidth. When you use disks, you might run into limits of the disk throughput on your VM. For example, an Azure standard E-series VM can be capped at 120,000 IOPS and 4,000 megabytes per second when attached to a disk. Compare that to when you use an ElasticSAN, where you can drive throughput over the VM network bandwidth. Suddenly, you're not limited on IOPS. I mean, the IOPS that your SAN can provide, which can be in the millions. And your throughput can go as high as 100,000 megabits per second, so about 12,500 megabytes per second throughput over the wire. So that's over 3 times as high, right? This often means that you can avoid upsizing your VMs just for higher bandwidth limits, which can save you a lot of money. Now, if some of those reasons make you think, oh, I'd like to use those products, how, right? This is where the Azure Storage Migration Program comes in. Do you remember how I said that migrating to disk is easy? It really is, but unfortunately, when it comes to some of our newer products like Premium V2 or UltraDisk or ElasticSAN, our Azure tooling takes some time to catch up. Azure Migrate, our most commonly used migration tool, currently doesn't have full support for migrating to the newest disks, and it's unable to migrate to ElasticSAN. That's part of why I'm presenting on this webinar with Cirrus Data. Through the Storage Migration Program, you can get access to Cirrus Data's cloud migration tool, Cirrus Migrate Cloud, for free. Azure Storage has partnered with Cirrus Data to provide assessments of your on-premises environment, which are then used to create a recommendation of what Azure products to use, including a best estimate of the storage cost of said products. And then they can migrate to Azure, and all of that is sponsored by Azure. If you go to the aka.ms/Cirrus offer, a link that I'll put in the chat in a little bit, and you contact Cirrus Data through the Azure Marketplace, they'll talk with you about your scenario and guide you on how to get started. So I personally am very happy to be able to offer this solution to our customers because I think this tool is awesome. And Mark is here to show you why.
Thank you very much, Jay. I appreciate that. I appreciate the support. It's an innovative solution with ElasticSAN, and of course, we support ElasticSAN and all of the storage in a Microsoft Azure environment. So I'm Mark Greenlaw. I'm here to talk about how Cirrus Data can automate and accelerate your SQL migration. And you know what's interesting about this is we can automate it from on-prem to the cloud. We can also migrate if you're already on managed disk of some sort and you want to get to ElasticSAN. We can migrate you from your existing footprint onto an ESAN environment and let you take advantage of all those things that Jay talked about. A little bit about Cirrus Data. We've been an Azure-focused partner for several years, as Jay and Jocelyn pointed out. We're headquartered in America. We've got global agreements in place with all the storage vendors that are out there, and we have moved exabytes of data, so we're fairly expert at this. One of the things that we bring to the table is a significant amount of differentiation. We have 13 patents that are complete, and we have another 6 or so that are pending for our cloud environment. So you can expect a very differentiated solution when you partner with us and work with the Azure teams. Some of the advantages you get with Cirrus Data is it's a truly data mobility platform. That is, we can migrate to ESAN and from ESAN, and that gives us the ability to support on-premise, cloud, or hybrid environments in a flexible format. We're very much vendor aligned. So we have what we call storage plugins, and we have storage plugins for ESAN. And what that really means is that we have tooling that is guided using the ESAN API so that we can create the volumes that we need for our ESAN environment without having to know how to do that in ESAN itself. This gives us the flexibility of automating and simplifying the creation of the volumes that we're going to need for the migration. One of the big advantages Cirrus has over a lot of other migration tools is we migrate live. That is, we migrate during the production day without impact. So we have this technology we call intelligent quality of service. And what that allows us to do is essentially govern the migration according to the activity of the source LUNs. If the source LUNs get above a tunable threshold, we back off our migration so that you can do the migration live while you are operating on your existing environment. The other thing that we do is when we're migrating from on-prem up to Azure, we do that data reduced. So we go through dezeroing and compression. That gives us the ability to migrate faster than traditional tools, using less bandwidth than traditional tools. And we, of course, secure that with encryption. Finally, we automate and provide visibility for your migrations. So, we've created something called Migrate Ops, which is the ability to create migration as an operation and single click for going from on-prem to ESAN using YAML files to automate that process and give you visibility across all of your migrations. So if you're doing multiple locations with multiple migrations, you can see into each and every one of those and monitor them from a single pane of glass. Our portfolio, Cirrus has been around for a while. We've got both an appliance-based solution as well as our software as a service solution that Jay pointed out called Cirrus Migrate Cloud. They have specific use cases. Obviously, our appliances are not deployed in the cloud, but we can migrate from our appliances to a virtual appliance in the cloud, or we can use our software as a service solution to migrate from on-prem to the cloud. We use one solution for all migrations. The code is common between them. Our Migrate Ops mobility as code automates this so you have a safe, consistent, and fast migration. We also wrap this up with our professional services organization. All our professional services organization does is data migration. So we are absolutely expert at doing this. We offer this as a full turnkey solution, so you don't have to worry about anything soup to nuts. We can do it teach to fish, where we go off and train the people who want to take over and show them how to do it on a series of migrations, essentially co-pilot them while they're doing their own, and then offer subject matter experts. If you feel you're expert already, we certainly will do just product only, and that is what's funded by Microsoft. What kinds of things have Cirrus and Azure worked together on? Well, the first thing that we were asked to do was to really help customers plan for an Azure deployment. And one of the things that everybody has to assess is, well, how do I take my workload and choose the right environment in an Azure environment? And Cirrus created what was called the consumption planner. And what that consumption planner does is it loads on my source environment and it monitors reads, writes, performance, peaks, and all that. And then it goes and looks into the Azure cloud, and it determines what's the best fit for your workload in the Azure environment. And that's done as a complementary service, so you can tell specifically for your environment what would be the best workload solution for you based on your priorities. Am I performance centric? Am I cost centric? What kinds of attributes will fit my data best? We also extended our capabilities, as Jay pointed out, that we are the tool to migrate to premium SSD v2 and ElasticSAN migrations. And you know, if somebody's on, let's say, HDD or SSD1, and they want to go there, we can actually get you from your source environment to your new environment without disruption. We do that, again, using intelligent quality of service and enable you to move flexibly from source to destination, figure out, is this a better fit? Am I getting the performance I expect? One of the things that you have to keep in mind is you can get started within minutes of engaging us. Our solution, a software as a solution portal, enables you to download the code non-disruptively, deploy it, and begin migrating within minutes. Some key advantages of our solution is that we give you a consolidated view of all your data mobility projects. So we give you a dashboard that allows you to look at scale, to look across everything that's going there. It's a simple and secure solution. So it's a single curl command or a single PowerShell command that downloads from our portal into your environments, installs non-disruptively, discovers the disks that are there. We allow you to have encryption and data reduction in flight when going from on-prem to the cloud, enabling a live data migration with minimal to zero impact. You know, this gives you a great deal of flexibility. You don't have to wait for Windows on weekends and nights to do the data migration. You can do this data migration live without fear of impacting your performance. So a little bit of a peek inside of what Cirrus Data Cloud can do. So it is a GUI-driven installation where you can see what hosts are deployed, how am I allocating my volumes, what percentage complete do I have, get real-time analytics of the performance that's going on in your migration, your cloud pricing predictions, a full automated tool set that gives you a viewpoint into each individual migration session as shown here, or a consolidated view. I've got migrations going on in multiple locations. I want to see how many are going on between locations to the cloud and what the status is, and I get a consolidated dashboard for all my migrations. Then I want to know, how am I migrating on my schedule? So one of the unique things that we allow you to do is this intelligent quality of service. And what we're showing here is I can set different thresholds for different times of the day, different days of the week. So let's say from 6 in the morning till 8 at night, I want to have a minimal impact. So if my source lens get more than 10% busy, I'm going to back off my migration IO so that I don't impact migration. And then from 8 p.m. till midnight, perhaps I'm doing my backup and batch schedule. I'll allow us to go moderate, and that will have a higher threshold before I start backing off. But if we get more than 30% busy, we're going to start backing off. And then from midnight to 6 a.m., we're going to go and do an aggressive migration schedule. That is, I'm going to continue migrating even if it gets a little bit busy, and go to 75% busy before I start backing off. And then on weekends, I'll let you go relentless because I really just want to get this thing finalized, giving you the ability to migrate on your own schedule and adjust this at any time. And of course, this can all be dynamically interrupted at any given point. So we have the ability to start and stop migration without losing our place. So this gives us the ability to continue to track changes and resume at will. One of the things that is key to success at scale is migrate ops, the ability to migrate as code. So we'll see in a demo shortly, the ability to essentially create a YAML file for one migration that will look at all the steps that are necessary, and then perhaps copy and paste that to hundreds of simultaneous migrations, and all of the steps are automated in our environment, and it enables us to create stanzas of YAML files and then edit my host name and IP addresses so that I can do many different hosts simultaneously, and then pause for a cutover request and approve that cutover so I'm ready to execute at that point. This is designed for large-scale projects so that I can get through my environment quickly and easily. So now let's take a look at all of these things that are going on and look at one particular migration from a Cirrus Migrate Cloud perspective. So the architecture itself is we have a cloud portal called the Cirrus Data Cloud Portal. And one of the things that you need to do is log into that. And for customers who are sensitive about, well, I don't want things in the cloud, that Cirrus Data Portal can be what we call a private edition. That is, it runs inside your four walls, so nothing ever leaves. The only thing that leaves in our Cirrus Data Cloud is monitoring, but if we're concerned about that, we can deploy Cirrus Data Cloud in a private edition. So the first thing that happens is we log into the portal. We then, the code itself creates the PowerShell command or the Linux curl command for you. You just copy and paste it, and it automatically self-installs without disruption and gets into the block data stream right next to the iSCSI driver itself, discovers the ones that are there, discovers all the attributes of that particular VM, and enables you to also connect to your ElasticSAN volumes. And so it will use the ElasticSAN API to allow you to create the volumes you need for the migration. Now, once I've created the volumes that I need and I've matched my source and destination volumes, I do a non-disruptive migration. So I go from source to destination. Again, I'll be monitoring this in the background to the point where I'm just tracking changes. The only thing different between my source and destination are the current writes. And once I get to that point, I'm actually ready to move the workload from my source environment to my destination. And that process is called cMotion. And we dynamically move from source to destination in flight with no disruption. My host doesn't know I've moved it. We use IO redirection to enable us to switch from source to destination. The agent itself allows the host to still think it's connected to the source volume when in fact it's connected to ESAN. I can run in this environment indefinitely, but I'm going to want to at some point cut over to my ElasticSAN volume. So what I have to do is I have to cut over. And for clustered environments, so if I'm running in the cloud and I've got a clustered SQL server in the cloud, I can cut over that SQL cluster one node at a time, remediate it, rejoin the cluster, and then do the next node. And I can have a zero downtime migration from perhaps an HDD environment over to ESAN. For unclustered hosts, I would have to have a rescan or a reboot so that I can take my IO redirection out. But that's a short disruption and can be scheduled at any time in the future. To look at this from a SQL database perspective, the idea that we're going to do this and make it effortless is essentially to create a migrate ops scenario where I'm going to go from source to destination and allow you to reliably transition from one storage platform to another with migrate ops, taking a lot of the risk out of human error, enabling you to scale at the machine code level. So we're going to do this at the speed of machine code with the discretion of IQOS, enabling us to do this without disrupting anything. This gives us enterprise scale, increasing the ability to get onto the new platform that potentially can reduce cost, better peak IO, as Jay pointed out, that the collective ESAN performance is better than other solutions that are out there, and also cost effective. One of the other things that we like to talk about in this world is what other things can we optimize on the way? And one of the things that has been key for a lot of customers is this Broadcom conversation. How do I optimize my hypervisor in addition to optimizing my storage? And this is another place that Cirrus shines in this environment. So if we were to take an environment and say, I wanted to transition from a VMware on-prem to a cloud-native environment on ESAN, we call that lift and optimize, and we certainly can do that. Go cloud-native in Azure and ESAN for optimized storage. We can also go to an Azure Stack, and we can go to Hyper-V on-prem. So this idea that we can reliably transform our compute environment while we're transitioning our storage environment is a place where Cirrus can help out automate that whole process. So we enable virtualization choice. So we have our environment, we log into Cirrus Data Cloud, we enable both data mobility and virtualization transformation. So I can lift and optimize. I can move you from an on-prem environment to a cloud-native environment with ESAN. I can go to a distributed hybrid infrastructure like Azure Azure Stack on-prem, or I could just go and use my hypervisor optimization to go to Hyper-V on-prem. Cirrus Data Cloud enables you to go across all of these environments in a dynamic process, and it can all be automated with Cirrus Migrate Ops. Now we're going to take a quick look and see our solution in operation using our environment.
Today, let's talk about how to migrate your on-premises SQL database to Microsoft Azure ElasticSAN using Cirrus Migrate Cloud. First, if you don't already know, Cirrus Migrate Cloud is a patented solution created to help customers move data from anywhere to anywhere with intelligently minimized workload disruption. Compute migration is a migration feature specifically designed to migrate not just your data, but also your entire operating system and applications from one platform to another. Let's first walk through how CMC does it. We will deploy Cirrus Migrate Cloud on your Linux and Windows host. This host can be a physical server or a virtual machine from any hypervisor. Next, Cirrus Data Cloud will use its Microsoft Azure integration to create a new virtual machine and start your live migration non-disruptively. CMC will also prepare your compute network, storage environment, and all other necessary remediation steps automatically for you. We have further integrated with Microsoft Azure to create purpose-built integrations with Azure ElasticSAN. CMC can optionally migrate your data volumes directly to ElasticSAN without having to first migrate to managed disk and perform a second migration to ElasticSAN. In that case, CMC will also automatically perform all iSCSI and multipath-related host setup for you. When you are ready to cut over, since CMC has already kept your data synchronized, all we need is to shut down the source and power up the VM in Azure. With Cirrus Data's purpose-built data mobility as code automation platform, Migrate Ops, we will be able to set up our operation and complete all tasks with just one click. This is designed to make data migration at enterprise scale easier, safer, and more predictable. First, from Cirrus Data Cloud, deploy Cirrus Migrate Cloud on your Linux or Windows host. Once CMC is installed on your host and necessary integrations are set up, go to Migrate Ops and start a new operation. This is our completed configuration. Note that this is just for one host. You can add as many hosts as you want to your configuration, but we will simply submit this configuration for this demo. Our completed YAML file is now pasted into the configuration editor window. Unless the scheduled start time field is specified in the configuration, the operation will start right away. Let's do that. The operation will now execute and proceed. You can monitor the progress of all tasks with the detailed messages. All necessary steps needed to migrate our host and workload to Microsoft Azure will be shown here. After a brief moment, the operation has been completed. Our boot drive is migrated to the Azure managed disk, and all data volumes are on ElasticSAN. Our SQL database alongside the entire server has been migrated to Microsoft Azure successfully. And that's how you effortlessly migrate your SQL workload to ElasticSAN with Cirrus Data, ensuring unmatched scalability and performance for the future.
So Cirrus Data solves a whole bunch of the challenges that are out there for migration, both on a storage perspective to ESAN, as well as a VM flexibility, and giving you the many options to simplify and optimize your environment. So, we can migrate literally from anything on-prem to any one of the Azure offerings. We can move the data live. Intelligent quality of service says I can move this without disruption and during the normal production day, and enable us to shorten the migration time as well as simplify the process. We can be 4 to 6 times faster traditional environments, and that comes from our in-flight data reduction of dezeroing and compression, and of course ensuring that's secure as well. Do this transforming our VM environment, all as part of the data migration, getting us onto a fully optimized environment in Azure with ESAN environments with minimal to zero downtime, and backed up by our storage professional team that can ensure your success. This has been a great webinar for everybody. Let's move on to our Q&A section. Anything in the chat, Jocelyn, at this point?
Yeah, we have a couple of questions. So the first question we got is, when data is copied, will the database transactions be consistent?
So that's a great question. We're copying asynchronously. So as part of the migration, we can set up both pre-migration and post-migration steps to ensure data consistency. So we can put the database into backup mode and ensure that we do that copy, that final copy, in a consistent fashion. So we would say put it into backup mode, and then do the final sync, and then resume on our destination. So yes, we can ensure consistency. If we don't want to do that, we would be crash consistent, of course, and I could recover that as well. But we can do both pre-migration and post-migration steps to ensure consistency.
So the second question we have here is, does Cirrus CMC software support both Windows and Linux in the cloud?
We certainly do. We are both Windows and Linux compliant, 64-bit versions only. We don't go back to 32-bit.
And then the last question for now in the chat: can Cirrus Data CMC migrate both physical and virtual Linux and Windows hosts to Azure, regardless of whether the source virtual machines reside on VMware, Hyper-V, or KVM private cloud?
We are independent of hypervisors, so we can go from physical up into the cloud. We can also go from multiple hypervisors. Any of the hypervisors that are out there, we support as both a source, and obviously we would support what Azure supports in the cloud. Yeah,
and this is actually one of the things that I really like. I really like about the Cirrus Data solution, right? It's we don't really. If it's block storage, we can move it, right? We move it from A to B, B to A, the other way around, in between, all good, right? Like, yes. It's really useful.
That's correct, Jay, and we appreciate the candor there that we support all comers, so that's fantastic.
Yeah, no, for sure. Is there anybody else who has a question? Feel free to post it in the chat. And if you think of questions later, you want to know, I did put that link, the aka.ms/Cirrus offer, in the chat already. I'll post it there one more time. Through there, you can easily reach out to Cirrus Data. You'll might get Stephen on the phone or whoever. We'll get you a nice conversation first about kind of what you're trying to achieve and how they can help. Again, the part that's sponsored by the Azure Storage Migration Program is a migration from on-premises to Azure using Cirrus Migrate Cloud, but Cirrus Data does offer more than just that that you can choose to use. I saw a hand being raised. Yeah, so if you have a question, can the deck be shared?
Yes.
I think so. Yeah, we can send that over. I think Jocelyn, you have Phil's information probably. We can send it over.
I do,
Okay.
Phil. Does that answer your question? I'm not quite sure how to unmute him. I might need Jay's help for that. Yeah.
And I think it's because it's a webinar. We by default have everybody muted. We can make him a presenter, but that might be a bit much. So
Phil,
for
we'll
now,
let
we'll share the deck. Yeah.
Today.
Good. And
But we'll follow up.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry. We'll follow up with you, Phil. I have your details and we can get back to you and have a larger discussion, or if there were other questions that we didn't answer.
Yep. And then if you want to reach out, you have questions about ElasticSAN, how that would work for something like a SQL or an Oracle database for you. I put a distribution list for specifically ElasticSAN in the chat. You can always email that, and I'll put one in for disks also. If you have specific disk questions, I'll put that distribution list in the chat as well.
Yeah, just to have a comment about the storage migration program. We do have Cirrus Migrate Cloud sponsored by Azure in Azure Marketplace. It's a contact me type offer. So when you click through on that, we're notified of your interest and we'll immediately reach out to you via email to start an assessment process with you, where we will guide you, through the assessment of your environment. It takes probably a couple of days to a week to complete that. And again, sponsored by Azure. We have two other offerings in Azure Marketplace for the migrations that are not sponsored by Azure. And you can just read through that. The description's pretty thorough.
Stephen, do you want to put the Cirrus Cloud distribution email in the chat, so if people have questions, they can reach out to you?
I sure will.
Great.
Thanks.
All right, everyone, ending right on time. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you, Jay and Mark, Stephen, for joining us, especially ahead of the hurricane rolling in down there. If you're in the Florida region, please be safe. And if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to any of the email addresses in the chat, to me, to Jay, Mark, Stephen, and we'll help you get the information you need. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.